So, hi guys, my name is Anan Celeste, and from time to time, I like to jump into the pages and do some random readings. I don't do it quite often because I reserve that to my professional practice. But in today is October 21st, and very soon at the end of October. Uh, All Hallows Eve, it's around the corner. There are many changes that are coming in the next 2 weeks. And a lot of people are a little, not a little, they're very uncertain, and they should be. As with many big changes, I think that we're afraid. But this is the kind of thing that either if the boat is sinking and you don't have a life jacket, you either learn to swim or you drown. And that is the kind of environment that we have been having lately. If you haven't seen the news, congratulations. That's something that not many of us can actually pull through for a whole week not watching the news. Uh, but it's not only the news; it's the overall environment. It's not only the pandemic; it's the tensions between, I guess, I'm going to use the term brother against brother, sister against sister, mother against father. That sounds extremely biblical right then and there. But that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And it's not that it's something new because it isn't. These atrocities, these injustices, this corruption, this lies, this blatant disregard for human life is nothing new. The difference between before and now is that we cannot look away because it's everywhere. We cannot look away because it's in our home. We cannot look away because it's in our neighborhoods. It's in our state or province or whatever you call your state or county or what have you. It's in your country, and it's not like it's one or two countries. This is a global phenomenon, and there's some metaphors thrown around, maybe some biblical apocalyptic rhetoric, and it's always been like that, and we have been living in that shadow for centuries. And I have to say that when I started this whole journey, at first I thought that all of these systems to control people using religion, using spiritual endeavors, using people's superstitions to try to gain power, to what I call the snake oil effect, that they try to use people from the spiritual community to gain money or for political power or to move the chips of what might have you. It's always been like that, but now it's you are fully aware that you are being conned. You're fully aware that you're being used. You're fully aware that the person that it's actually putting themselves in that pedestal as a savior or as a guide or as a prophet or as a leader, a religious leader, you know how human these people are. I'm not going to use the word corrupt. I'm not going to use the word demonic because it's not in my inherent vocabulary. Not because I think I'm an angelic in any shape or form. It's just that we're dealing with human beings, not with ethereal, perfect beings. We're dealing with people with flaws and darkness, and when you elevate a person and and I was taught this by a child. It's like whenever you put a person at the rank of a superhero, it's always going to disappoint you. And it's the truth. Sometimes we we give too much credit to people that we admire, and we tend to forget that they're human beings too. Now, what do we have? what do we have that has been presented here in the 2020 is regarding the planet. And we're going from the most broad into the most personal. We have the planet. For decades, if not forever, ever since we have recorded history, we have learned in the same way that our ancestors that everything is cyclical, that everything happens for a reason, that we are, like they say, at the behest of the gods when it comes to climate, when it comes to natural disasters. We also learned once we became industrialized how we could affect the planet negatively and positively. For those of you that are all for the environment, and as a witch, I'm assuming that you are for what that you know that you came for a part of. And you would be surprised how many people that haven't yet realized in the witchy community how closely connected we are with nature and how important it is our interaction to be as a give and take. Because if we keep taking and taking and taking, this, look what is happening. We need to realize that, and this is why this is happening, because we needed to realize that a little bit quicker, that we are one species. Human beings are not divided by races. That is just another concept of not people, because this is organizations that decided that the only way to crush another human being and to gain power was to dehumanize them. And that is one of the tactics of racism, is to dehumanize the other. So that has been used forever to conquer, to destroy, to acquire land, to change political powers throughout the centuries. And you can find, it doesn't matter if you are into occult books only, or at one point in your life you have decided to read the Bible. It is up front and center how spirituality, religion, faith is interconnected with cultural and political advancements. And when I say advancements, is the way that it mutates. We have the Crusades, we have the Huns, the way that they conquered Alexander the Great. That is one of the perfect examples of how you can take a piece of land that is filled with people already and change their customs and bring new ones and create new ones. And I was very disappointed when I was a teenager, and I was so excited about the gods and how this whole construction and reconstruction of deities and relationships that the old world has. And here for example, here in America, the way the Native Americans had with the spirits of the earth. And I was a little disappointed when I started to learn the way that these religions and these systems started to grow and spread. But now we're starting to realize that all of that division, all of that fragmentation of spirituality, of religion, of castes, of people, of having the nobility underneath the king, and then we have the priest caste. Because in spirituality and religion, as you may know, there has been always these people in charge of your salvation or in charge of your spiritual advancement. And over the years, we have started shedding that. I was talking to someone to say that one of the biggest casualties of the 2020 decade, and it feels like it's been 10 years, the 2020 decade, is those regulated and long founded and archaic systems of religion and faith, and the way that they're going to topple down and get reconstructed again. But that is huge. And I was thinking In the same way that the prophecy, and I'm not going to put it in that way because I don't like to use those terms anymore. We have to stop attributing miraculous backgrounds and miraculous origin stories to things that were fairly recent and people just literally made it up or use it as a metaphor. Uh, there's people out there that actually believe certain things that when you look at it and you hear it, it's kind of funny and it's kind of entertaining, but it takes a toll when you see people taking it to an extremes, and that's the problem when you mix religion with politics. Then all these nut jobs start popping up. It doesn't matter what religion it is. There's always nut jobs that try to take their interpretation of whatever into a violent extent. And that's always been there. ISIS and the other crazy ones from here is all in the open. Everything is in the open. Everything is in the open. The same way that when a spirit or a ghost or what have you, they say now that you see them, they can see you too. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. And because of technology, because of social media, because of the cancel culture, that unfortunately was necessary to put in its place to some people. It was needed to expose a lot of hypocritical people, a lot of hypocrites that they presented themselves as sheep, but were in reality they were the wolves. In the world, we are now more connected than ever. Now the world, it's not only connected to travel, which now it has halted because of the pandemic, but also because of the communications. Because of the pandemic, we now realize that we don't have to interact in person. We don't have to say, oh, I wish I could meet with this friend, or because it's from around the world, or which is nice. It's really nice. And it's not going to be that long until all travel is reset. And when I say reset, it's going to be rethinked because of the pandemic and because of future incidents. Now, let's go to the other one. We have seen, and now we have proof of the devastating effects of the human presence in the world. I felt so proud of this new generation. I am Generation X. I am just there. And my children being millennials and the people that actually have boosted up this movement and put it in everybody's faces for them to see exactly what we're doing and what we have done. It has been young people. It has been the millennials. And that's why when people say, oh, millennials are lazy, yeah, maybe they don't know how to sew a button, but they can actually change legislation and they can actually move other people. 2020, it's not only about death and about exposing and about the bad in the human condition. No. And in the planet. No, that's not what it's about. It's about showing us that many people have your same struggles. Many people have that are the other. That all of those lies that you were told about the people that live on the other side of the fence, that they were lies. And there is a freedom that comes with that. You don't have to live with fear. You don't have to live with the uncertainty. You don't have to live with the suspicion of the other all the freaking time. And I wish I was making this shit up. This was told to me by an old lady. That it was the fear of the other, of the Is a whoa, that was dark as hell. The other stage is the country. Every country in itself, and it doesn't matter if it's in the new world or the old world. Every single country is going through a change, either through a shakedown, through an adjustment, through a, a reintroduction of what is important, at least what is important for the people. And that is something that in many cases that it's new, because we have noticed that we have a voice, and it doesn't matter what type of government you have. Many people have tried for decades, and when I say decades, people that just recently passed away that had 40 years, 50 years under their belt, advocating and trying to change the world that we live in, because the world and for example, I'm not gonna talk about other countries, but here in this one, many people, when I say many people, 80% of people had no idea how fucked up the United States really is. And there is this shame that comes to not to talk about it, because we've been hanging on that tail of that comment of Hollywood for so long. And the reality, when people come here and they see how other people are treated, see how low in the food chain you are, and the disrespect of the common folk, the entitlement, the entitlement is so disgusting that the only way to deal with it and process it is to watch it on YouTube, to watch it on social media, to be hit in the face with it, to see this is us. How many times have you had your phone and Twitter or Facebook or what have you, and you're so tempted, and you start texting, you start typing, what the hell is wrong with people? And then you erase it because you don't want to be either political or pessimistic or nihilistic. But you really worry that what the hell is wrong with people's common sense? What the hell is wrong? And then you start hearing them talk. 2020 is the year of listening. You need to listen to other people, really listen. People will tell you who they are in the first 5 minutes of a conversation. Once they tell you who they see themselves, you're going to see and believe them. When a person tells you that they're a son of a bitch, believe them. When a person tells you that they're an asshole, believe them. When a person displays racism, misogyny, that's who they are. If you make a soap opera in your head that this person is not that because it's good in other areas, it's on you. That's what 2020 is about. You have to accept that the people that you admire, that the people that you relate yourself with, that the people that you have, that you love, and even the person that is looking at you in the mirror every morning, that it can be as cruel, manipulative, deceitful, and even hypocritical. And the beautiful thing about this year is that it doesn't matter how much we try, we can't stop being ourselves. People are being that crap of the Karens. It's just people being themselves. It's just people externalizing what they have done forever. And we decided not to see it. We decided not to comment on it. We decided to do nothing about it. And here comes the millennials and say, are you people freaking blind? And the guy that actually put the names and the generations, the X generation, the Y generation, the millennials, and what have you, he describes that there are many, every other generation is a recessive generation that doesn't do shit. And the X generation didn't, you know, break any paradigms. It wasn't anything. It was the generation. We're the generation. And I think that all of this explosion of everybody trying to be themselves, trying to find reassurance in the people that they love, their sexual orientation, the way that they want to live, the way that they want to love, the way that they want to express themselves. And there goes art, music, and what have you. This is something that works both ways. It can use to liberate, but also can be used to externalize all of those bad parts of ourselves. And that, if this organism, if my liver is malfunctioning, I'm going to feel bad overall. And if there is a segment of my country that it's not healed, that it's suffering, that is suppressed, that is underserved, is going to affect the whole system. And when I say system, it's going the whole country. That is something that we tend to forget. It's like your liver was trying to take over your whole body, and it didn't give a crap that by doing what it's doing is going to affect the heart, the lungs, and what have you. And that is exactly what we have in many parts of many countries. There is this small part, cancerous cells that don't care about the well-being of the rest of the rest of the body, the rest of the system. And it just wants to be there and exists, and is defending its right to grow and keep over like tentacles, just grabbing and destroying everything that it has, just like a tumor would. And it starts affecting the whole system and to destroys it. And that's exactly what happens to any given country that has underserved and to try to put civil rights, to try to put human rights, to try to put humanity in a concept that you have to explain to a person. You're not supposed to put babies in cages. You're not supposed to kill people. You're not, and they don't understand, and they still feel entitled to ask for more, to the consequences, and to have horrible consequences to another. That's a whole new monster. And we're seeing those monsters giving praises in churches. I saw yesterday what I'm going to assume one of those mega churches preachers, you know, those that get enriched by their own followers and the people that go to their churches. It's disgusting. And we are seeing them for what they really are, and what they'd have done to the country, to their respective country. And that is going to change. That is going to change, because the cheap are not going to be asleep that longer. Because when a person realizes that instead of tithing, because that is what is called tithing, because that's exactly where we're doing when we pay our taxes, or when we give 10% to the church, we expect something in return. And that is one of the mentalities of many people that have quote unquote faith. Then when you pray or when you do your tithing, you're going to receive some type of compensation, I guess. And that's nothing bad, because witches do that all the time. Witches do their spells and workings because they need something, because they're trying to channel some energy and get a result. But this is a whole new animal, and that is going to be explored, and literally is going to change in 2020. And that is for the country. For a more local to the state or province that you live in, it's ironic how things locally have changed too. how because of the census, again, we are here in the United States, we're finding out exactly how much minorities and majorities there are. And that is going to change a lot the map of the United States. It's not that it's not like that now. It's now everybody is going to see it because this is the culture. I need to see it to believe it. And because they're Christians, they have to see it to believe it. Because everything is by faith. Bad joke. Never mind. They're going to see exactly what is the standing of that quote unquote majority or minority. And the way that that is going to be painted, it's going to be really sobering for a lot of people. And they're going to realize that things are not the way that they thought. And sometimes we are the monster in our own story, and we need to change that. In our hometowns, the town, how it changes the towns. We are in the middle of a quarantine that has changed the way that we relate to each other, the way that we send our children to school, the way that we are doing policy, the way that our local civil servants are going to behave. We are more acquainted to what they should do. I remember back in the day when people would not, the only way that a person could really win is that they had the money for the advertising and what have you. And many people would just vote for whoever their party would put forward. This is not happening anymore. People are more aware because we're paying these people with their taxes. So don't you think they should work for you, not for themselves? I don't know. That's just an idea. That's just an idea. If I am paying someone, they better be doing something for me. And that's exactly how donations work. And if a big company or a person that wants some influence put some money forward, you better believe your bubble butt that that's exactly what they're going to ask for. And it's always been like that. The interesting thing is that all of that is going to change. People are going to start to know their neighbors better, for good or for bad, for extraneous situations, for emergency situations, for security, because this is something that is going to also be at the forefront of the local communities and in the neighborhood. The neighborhood, you're going to start to notice everything that is lacking in your neighborhood. Food pantries, local services, WIC, something as American as the YMCA, the library, a lot of things that you never paid attention to or that you are using and benefiting from them. And then you're going to start asking a lot of adult questions about those services and how needed they are, how involved you are in the local, in your school district, how you are involved in the way that, for example, the local businesses are run. And that is a huge thing nowadays, now that, for example, restaurants and other businesses, mom and pop businesses, have been affected by the pandemic. And people are going to be more involved in those decisions, in city council and at a more local level. The everyday Joe is going to be more involved. The homeless issue, and I'm going to use that term, the homeless issue is going to become a worldwide topic, at least here in the United States. People around the world, and even here, they have the misconception that there is only one type of homeless person. And those of us who have been homeless at any time in their lives knows that there is a plethora of circumstances in 2020 has come to put at the forefront exactly what homelessness does. It's going to come to the forefront the real estate issue. People think that because real estate is booming, because people are selling and buying their houses among themselves, it doesn't mean that there's millions of people that are going to be and have been evicted in the last 3 to 4 months around the United States. And the typical American doesn't give a shit. As long as they have their car, as long as they have their Starbucks, as long as they have their stuff, they don't care. And that is something else that we have seen. We have seen that there is this contradicting moral fiber of the American. And we're seeing it in our neighborhood. We're seeing it the way that it's displayed. And we just have to decide exactly how and why that affects us. I have seen people deteriorate into a whole new reality, not even 2 doors down. And it's not that it's scary, it's not that it's unsettling, and it's sad. It's sad. It's really sad. But me being aware that that anomaly is there, it gives me a heads up. You cannot control people's crazy. You can only try to control your own. And in that sense, it gives me a broader view exactly of how close to home certain inclinations are. It is really difficult because when we say neighborhood, that includes our children's extended friends, and that includes their families, the people that we shop with, the corner store owner. That entails a lot. The people that you go and get your hair cut. We are creatures of habit, and sometimes when our surroundings changes, we need to pay attention and maybe fix in one or two things that we can change for the better. And I think that's the best thing that we can do, and that includes in the community. The extent is the familial ties to others. One of the biggest casualties uh, of 2020 here in the United States, aside from the over 200,000 deaths, because, and believe me, that is just a shadow of the number. But we're not going to know exactly that until a year, maybe 2 years after this whole thing settles. We're not going to go back to what we were. And the problem is that the relationships that we have created and the relationships that we were born into were affected either for good or for bad. People got to see who their relatives were. They got to see who their spouses were. They got to know their children. They got to know their parents. They got to know people that have been friends for decades. And we needed to realize and sit beside ourselves when we realized that that person was not who we thought he or she was. The traumatic effect of being isolated, of being forced into your own mind, into your own space, it gives you the hellish blessing of seeing things the way that they are to you, the way that they are to the other person, and the way that is perceived by everybody else. Remember, there is not one truth. There's just a whole bunch of mistruths that you just pick the one that you see with the lens that you have. The best thing that I can say is that you have to keep learning. Nobody's perfect. And when you go into the last stage, and it's not a stage because all of this comes at once. All of this comes at once. When you get to that part of the day when you sit with yourself, and that thing that you're being criticizing your spouse, or that you've been criticizing your brother, uh, racism, politics, religion, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That there is a part of you that also you have conflict with regarding that, especially nowadays when there is this phenomena that has been started, that in the same way that a cult can swallow a person, the there is this phenomena of the conspiracy theories, and this is really touchy in spaces like this, because unfortunately 80% of the things that float around spiritual or paranormal sites, groups, is conspiratorial, highly conspiratorial. Many of it has no basis. Many of it is still in the stages, after forever, still in the stages of investigation, of study. And I'm a very strong advocate that we have to be honest with ourselves regarding that thin line between trying to understand nature and the reality, and the way that nature expresses itself, and through paranormal, and you know, nature, the universe, and what our mind creates. Our mind and our brain and our heart, to a degree, we're wonderful storytellers. And the way that we convey pain and hope and fear is through storytelling. Sometimes the world is too complicated to actually live in it, so we tend to introduce certain notions that really have no merit, archaic, even medieval. And it's sad. It's sad. Many, I know, and yes, I'm going to say I have done it before, even laughed at some of these alternate realities that they have created or they believed in. And I think that the real tragedy is that the people in the real world that they're ignoring to pursue that fantasy world. It is a really tricky statement, because when you say something like that, people cannot control, for example, a mental illness, or an emotional imbalance, or a hallucination, or things of that nature. We're still in diapers when it comes to mental health. We're still in diapers when it comes to our perception of reality. We're still trying to understand the nature of said reality, let alone to what other people are thinking or believing in their heads. Is a lottery that nobody wins, because I can tell you what I'm thinking, I can possibly tell you what I believe in, but doesn't even that come close to even the things that are hidden from myself, the things that I don't tell myself, the subconscious, the shadow. And that goes into the fragmentation of those relationships, those familial ties to others in 2020, because we can forgive a child for being afraid of the darkness, but it's tragic as hell when a man, a full-grown man or a full-grown woman, is terrified of the light. That's not mine, that is a famous quote, but it's true. It is true. And when we see a family member struggling with cultish behavior, and that extends from the religious to the political, even to this new way of worshiping celebrities, it has taken its toll in the psyche of the American, and has taken its toll in the psyche of families. The way that we prefer the company of make believe personalities that our own, you know, our own family, our own spouse, our own children, and it becomes the other in the relationship. The way that, and we see it in sports. It's not that it's something that has to do with religion and politics. It's something that we see in sports too, and that is something that we need to just either accept that our friend or our family member is going through something that they need to realize themselves, and there is nothing you can do about it. But you have to work on yourself, because we are the sum of the people that we surround ourselves with. So if in a circle of 5 there's 3 shitty people around you, believe me, that shit splattered on you a long time ago, and you need to clean that up. And that brings us to the last one, the real you. What I have learned in the 2020 is that, at least, that I am more sensitive than I thought I was. That this empathy label gets thrown around all the time, all the time, saying that I feel what the other persons feel, that I can feel their pain, that I can feel their happiness, that I can feel um, and at the same time I have seen the same person turn a complete blind eye when there is a hungry person, when there is a homeless person, when there's a person that needs some compassion, a sick person. We don't know what the hell empathy means, and people don't understand that just trying to guess your mood, that because your vibe feels a certain way, that doesn't make you empathic. Because you think that you can uh, not predict, because that's not the correct word, that you can pretend to relate to other people at a spiritual level. It doesn't mean that you are. Have you tested your level of empathy? Have you, because people that don't struggle with this have an inherent issue. People that don't struggle with, am I really being empathetic, or I'm just trying to just fulfill our own selfish, I don't know, vanity, because their vanity and ego is plays a lot here. When we're trying to be empathetic, is being empathetic, and when we have no idea how to empathize with that person, it means that we're going to go the extra mile to do so. I have seen and I have heard people, and that was one of the main reasons when I was a child that I decided to really question and point the finger at people that would say that they're empathetic, that they're sensitive, that they are more connected to that very intricate web of what is the humankind. I call it the nervous system of the human race, where we're all connected. Like many animals can sense fear, that they can sense at a level what it's prey, what is the predator. I thought that people that would claim to have this connection with the divine, this connection with God, this connection with angels that is thrown around like if it was shit, that they had a part of themselves that could see other people. I really thought, until I saw it in action. I have been surrounded by seers, mediums, espiritistas, santeros, babalaos, witch doctors, priests, Wiccans, it doesn't, what have you, it doesn't matter. claiming to have this strong connection and this strong empathy with those around them, and yet could not show compassion to a dog, or could not show compassion to a stranger, or could not show compassion, I don't know, like babies in cages and shit. And it made me wonder, in their heads, what is the true definition of compassion and empathy? And that is a question that nobody can answer for yourself. Nobody can tell you that you're in love. You just know that you are, right? But sometimes you do things that gives you away. Sometimes you say something that would give you away, that you are not there yet. We are not there yet, but we're trying. We are trying. And saying that, it says a lot. It says a lot. Because usually we can distinguish a person that is just there to con or to have an audience. That's somebody that is in a real journey, that is trying to do something for themselves, that is trying to do something for the rest of humanity. And when we see people, for example, with doing readings or doing rituals, having these communities, being in those communities in the real world or what have you, we all are. It doesn't matter at what level that person claims to be or what level you claim to be, whatever that may be. We're going through something very different. We're going through something that may or may not reflect at that moment. And the fact that we're still here, that means that we need to still keep learning, that we need to keep paying it forward, I guess. So for the last 5 minutes of the stream, let me see if I can get 5 cards. And with that, I'm going to close. It's going to be really short and really sweet. I've been hugging the cards for the whole duration of the video because I wanted to get through these as soon as possible. So, okay. I use the Oracle of Visions. I am blind as a bat, guys. So, and I haven't gotten my glasses yet. The Oracle of Visions. Okay. I'm going to try to put the card in a way. Okay, to see if you can see it. Here. Okay, right there. There. So, this is the card of seeing the things that are there, but from a retracted point of view. We all wear masks. We all wear masks. Sometimes we share those masks. Sometimes we pretend to be something that our friend or our family member or the person that we love or the person that we admire. We tend to recreate what we see because we like it. What we don't understand is that everybody has a different perspective of that particular presentation of yourself. People know that you're not being genuine. And because you have that in common with somebody else, it doesn't make it you. It still doesn't make it you because it's just another way, a half and half of what in a couple that is trying to make everything like one season and everything have to be together and everything has to be the same. They coordinate clothes and what have you. There's still 2 personalities there. And whatever they put forward into the world is going to be a combination or amalgamation of those 2 personalities. That is not going to mean, that is not going to result in them becoming something completely different so they can be exactly the same. That's not the way that it usually is. And like the card states, you still have one eye in and one eye out. 2 very different personalities trying to present itself through the same lens. And that's exactly what is going on in most of the world. Many people are trying to use the same mask, different ideologies, different backstories through the same lens. That's not possible. And of course, they're going to be shorthanded. All sides are going to be shorthanded if we don't receive the same equal treatment. It goes back to justice. Okay. In this card, and I love this card, the representation of the colors and the doves and what have you. I wish I could really, you guys could really see this. It's beautiful. It illustrates a gate, and out of the magic box, it's coming out those the doves, the turtle doves. We have, as human beings, we tend to use what we have available to actually process change. And we, as a nation, as a planet, have used everything we have. The card that was presented to us by birth, that means religion, culture, and our home life. Then what our community have to offer, and education, and our own self-discovery. All of those add-ons to our contribution, it's amplified by our need to better ourselves to that spiritual journey. We have put on all the masks. We have felt naked. We have felt naked in front of other people, in front of the people that we love, that we want to impress. And yet, out of all of those things that we have done, all of those tools that we have used, and I love it because down in the floor there are tarot cards, and there is a wand, and there's many things. And this particular box that the checkered pattern, it's very Masonic, and there is a fleur de lis in the lid of the box. I don't know if you guys can see it. No, the glare is not allowing me. There's a fleur de lis in the lid, and they have out of all of that symbolism, we have put in our practices all of these little things that only you know. It's not that you display it in your feed or that you tell to anyone. You don't even put it in your journal at all. It's those very deep down things that you have collected through the years, those experiences, those symbols, those aha moments that you have put in that very secret box here. And even when you do still have your mask on because you don't want people to see you, when you feel naked and ashamed, you have that box that when it opens up, it brings hope. And that's what the doves and the light represent. Time. Time, the construct of time. Sometimes we sit and wait for things to change. Sometimes we sit and wait for people to change. Sometimes we say, I'm going to do this when I feel better, or I'm going to do this when this person acknowledges me. I'm going to finish or do this when I graduate. This pandemic has shown us that there are two sides of waiting. There is the forced waiting. There is the quarantine and everything else when we have to, the circumstances that we cannot control. And then there is the enforced waiting. When we put ourselves in a situation that we're waiting for other people to change, other circumstances to change, for us to do something there is no bearing in that anymore. We lost the chance to procrastinate. We had time, and yes, we did. We'd had time to work on ourselves. We had time to work on our surroundings. We had time to do all of those things. And now that that timeline has been taken away, we feel cheated because we didn't plan, we didn't do crap. time passes by regardless. And at the same time, that time that we asked for and that information that we asked for has always been there. And I love that. I love this card for the simple reason that it has the clock really big. It has the clock really big. And then there is this the pigeon bringing her a letter, and there's papers everywhere. So it's we have all the information, but we don't want to get dirty with the commentary. We don't want to make any waves. We don't want to do crap. And it's that procrastination that actually got us where we are at. It's nobody's fault that a huge pandemic just we have to take responsibility for our own life. And sometimes we need to plan for things. I love when people, oh, I'm a psychic, I'm a medium, but unfortunately they don't take the precautions to prepare themselves in their personal life to actually be prepared, because that's the whole point. When you say, and I was thinking about this, the I need help. It's fucked up. I need help. Uh, when the Oracle of Delphi, that usually it was, and that is for the things that we read in the Iliad and the stories that we read about the Oracle of Delphi and how she was standing in a tripod of meth and crack. So she was high and she was, you know, talking away. And I was just thinking that's medium, high, nothing, 15 years. So it's a hormonal teenager that is high out her ass. Just, I don't know, just, oh my goodness. We try really hard to do our part. And when we talk about giving ourselves some time, sure, Jackie. When we tell ourselves that we are this mythical creature or this very talented supernatural human being that has access to the Akashic records and all of these wonderful information, and yet our spouses cheat on us, and we cannot foresee that our child is going to do something screwed up, and we see because we want to see in other people. We see what we want to see in other people, and sometimes we're a better judge of character than when we look ourselves in the mirror. And unfortunately, we can give a good advice to somebody else, but when it comes to our own private life, we fail to prepare, we fail to foresee, and we fail to take action when it needs to. And then we feel depressed because we tell ourselves that we didn't see it coming. And we know that's a lie. We did see it coming, and we did try. And because that's part of the human condition. And that has happened to me multiple times, that I think I can handle certain situation, an emotional situation, most likely. But in reality, I'm doing something that I would not in a million years advise anybody else. And the only person that, if that gets hurt, is me. And we don't know why we do that. That's exactly what we need to do by times end this year. Find out why we do that to ourselves. Why we put ourselves into situations that we know that we're going to get hurt. Why do we put ourselves into a situation that unfortunately nobody wins? Because even if you are in that martyr mentality that you're going to, what people say, Captain Save-A-Ho, the person, it's not because you are actually doing it because you don't want to deal with the situation. And we go through that as parents, we go through that as friends, we go through that as with our familial, or any type of relationship. It doesn't matter if it's close or not. When you advise a person for their own good, you don't pull back. But when it comes to you, it's a completely different story. And when we talk about self-love, and we say, oh, I love that person, I want the best for that person. And yet what we're showing is that we don't give a shit about ourselves. So the advice falls flat. It does fall flat. Sometimes we can do something about it, sometimes we can't. But it's still is our responsibility. So that is my mark. And I just got told it's been for an hour. So thank you everybody for coming. And remember that this is not over yet. It's not over yet. It doesn't mean that it's lost. It doesn't mean that it cannot be changed, but it must be remembered. We need to remember our mistakes. We need to remember who was there for us. We need to remember that people come and go, that you may have a responsibility, or that you do have a responsibility to the people around you. But if you don't take responsibility for yourself, then you're wasting your time. Jackie, what do you see for us? What's coming for us? Oh, honey, you are with a Scorpio. Scorpios are temperamental, but they're depending of how you are telling yourself your story. That is exactly how it's going to turn out. A Virgo with a Scorpio. Virgo are really loyal with their friends. They are a ride or die type of sign. Scorpios are, and I know that you are, and that part of you that tries to do everything that you can when you think that the person deserves it, of course. It gets hurt when the other person doesn't realize it. And I understand that. Scorpios are really temperamental, and they tell you the truth. Not when you need, not when you expect it, but when it needs to come out, they tell you the truth. And that is something that I said at the beginning. This is the year of the truth. I'm not gonna lie, the truth hurts, but it's so cleansing and so rewarding. Sometimes we punish ourselves because we think we're lacking on something, when in reality, we're just one of the big gears of this huge machine. The relationships that you have are because of a reason. And that relationship in particular, it has growth on both sides. And not only has growth on both sides, growth hurts. Growth hurts. Communication, and when I say communication, I'm not talking about talking, just talking. People do that every day. I'm talking about understanding, and this is really painful. I'm talking about you putting yourself in the shoes of that person, and that person putting themselves in your shoes. I'm talking about being real, being realistic. Sometimes we don't want to hurt that person's feelings. What is a bigger lie? When a person tells you the truth of something that can set both of you free, or to live a lie that in the surface makes you both happy. And it doesn't matter if it's something really stupid. Sometimes we are a slave to a detail. We're slaves to a detail. And that detail distracts us from the bigger picture. That bigger picture can, oh honey, just make sure to find a time in the day to calm down that storm. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Sometimes we drown in a glass of water when we're trying to distract ourselves from the big ocean that is behind us. So don't worry about making things fit. Don't try to worry about making things fit. You try to make you shine and come out. And I know that sounds cliche as hell, but that is the best way that I can put it. Sometimes we make ourselves really small and we distract people around us with little details that either makes us look not bad, but it's not the real us. That is your only responsibility. Your only responsibility is with a lot of respect, with a lot of growth, because this is the year of growing very painfully. That's what we call the growing pains. You have to learn in a way to find the communication line. Sometimes we don't know how to talk to another. Sometimes when what we think what we're saying, it's not what we're really saying. Try to communicate through, write a letter. I'm not talking about texting or messaging. I'm talking about a real letter with your own handwriting. People love to journal, but they don't like to write letters. And some people don't like to read them because they're terrified of what they're going to find there. I don't know if you're one of those that don't read a letter because they're terrified. You get the nerves. It's the envelope. It's the handwritten thing. It makes it official. It makes it serious. There is something that happens with the written word that it makes it like a contract between you and your soul that you're going to respect what's in there. That's why when you put anything in writing, be mindful of the language. Sometimes we like to point and say, "You're doing this to me. I feel like this when I'm with you," and in reality, the only thing that we're trying to convey is the hurt that we feel, the way that they hurt us. We're trying to tell them that there is a part of us that needs closure, that there is a part of us that needs a healing, something to heal that wound, that hurt. And that can trigger two things. And you have to be ready for both. You know that song that says, if you don't know me by now, you will never, ever, ever really know me? It applies here. There's only two outcomes to us open ourselves to a partner, to open ourselves to another person. And it doesn't matter if they're sexual partners or if they're friends or what have, it doesn't matter. There's only two outcomes. The outcome that you know it's going to happen, and the one that you hope it's going to happen. So this is, can you see what's coming for us? Yes. And that's me overgeneralizing. That is me generalizing. Someone is going to make a choice. And even though you're not going to understand, it's for the best. It's for the best. The reason why you should never ask what is going to happen is because what you're doing is actually materializing what you already know. That is the first sign that your intuition is trying to test itself. When you ask anybody, what do you think about this, what you see coming in this situation? I am a firm believer that choices are made every second. In the last 60 seconds, of the moment that you're hearing this, it's not the same 60 seconds of when I recorded it. You already made that choice. And at the moment that you think that you're making that choice, you're going to tweak it and change it again. That changes the outcome. But there is the thing that you cannot change is how it makes you feel and the truth. Which, by the way, is not your truth. Your truth, you already know it. Is the other person's truth that you don't know. And I think that you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to accept that truth, even if it is not what you thought it was, because sometimes we get mad because it's not what we thought it was, it's something else. We need to accept it, that it's not what we told ourselves it was. And that's how we heighten our intuition, by accepting the changes when a decision is made. When a decision is made. So let me get you a card really quick. And with that, I have to go. I'm supposed to go to the market. Okay. Take it from the middle. Memories. Sometimes, honey, the things that we miss from our past, or the things that we hurt in the past, it's like having this box, and we put everything in there. And sometimes we torture ourselves. We take out our box and we go through our hurts. We go through our the things that destroyed and actually build us up, the things that made us happy, and we pick and choose from that box what we're going to do. And sometimes we linger in a memory, and that memory is not the best, and that memory is not serving anything, just bringing you panic, just bringing you not even nightmares, because the nightmares that for what many people would consider the same thing every day, that routine of that torture, of that hurt. Many of that hurt is only in the surface, because it's that old. That doesn't mean that it hurts any less. That doesn't mean that it didn't happen, but unfortunately, the way that it's expressing itself, it's like that. We can cherish memories, but we can change our past. And before anybody misinterpreting, we can change the past. Jason Silva said it the best, that the way that we can rewrite our history is by rethinking the way that we think our past. The best way that we can heal tragic events, people that hurt us and traumatize us, is to actually bring meaning to that happening, to bring closure to that happening. And sometimes the anger and the confusion and the hurt doesn't allow us, because there is no reasoning for suffering. There is no justifying that happening. There is not justifying that part of our history that has shaped us in what we are. So the past can be your best way to build a bright new future, whatever that may mean. Because when we see bright new future, it can mean a very different thing to you. So use those memories, the conclusion of that memory. And this is just an example, and with that I'm going to close. Many people that had childhood trauma, people that have been broken and chewed up before their formative years, before the age of 9, they have this very ghost-like existence in the inside where you need to put aside the things that happened to you in a way that you can process it without you feeling like a monster, without you feeling like you're just a shadow of what you were because of that indentation that has on your soul. By saying, yes, this did happen to me, but now I can relate better to people that have gone through the same thing. Yes, that happened to me, but the person that did this to me, it's either passed on or had its own tragic uprising, or there's always something positive that you can extrapolate from a tragedy, even if it is death, sexual trauma. Um, it doesn't matter. As long and I always say the same thing, always look for professional help. Always, always, always. Your tarot cards, your oracle cards, your medium, your pendulum, it's not going to help you with a chemical imbalance. It's not going to help you with actually processing trauma and fear and teaching you all the things that you need to actually be in the present and actually doing something towards your future. So there is there is a way that you can heal yourself and heal your partner and heal your new chain here in your life. But it's by taking all of that hurt and taking all the things that you have learned in the last couple of years. The first year, it's all romance or it's all hell, and then starts to settle down. That's a long time. So things are going to keep changing. And it's, yeah, you have to take the responsibility to make things work. Be more proactive in the relationship, be more proactive in the building of your new home. Uh, in your chart, in your medical chart, oh, okay. You see, that's the problem with when you text something and you put something on Messenger. I when you said Cancer Ascendant, the first thing that I went for is cancer, not cancer the sign, cancer the disease. Cancer the disease. Oh my God. Or your astrological chart. There is a wonderful, wonderful website, and I think I'm going to link it to your comment. Wonderful website that is going to give you all of the information of your astrological chart, from all of the and in every house an explanation of where is your moon sign, where is your sun sign, and strictly related to your date of birth and where in the world you were born. So I promise. I was a nurse for a long time, and when I had cancer, I said, "Oh gosh," because it's thorough. It's pages and pages and pages long, and this is my favorite. It's absolutely free, and it's very, very, very helpful. Uh, the wonderful thing about astrological charts is that they call on your shit before you finish even reading, and then you're going to be laughing your ass off through the whole thing. It also helps you. Um, it also helps you to understand your mood swings. It helps you to understand your mood swings. So I'm gonna leave you with that. I'm gonna get you that link, and believe me, you're going to love this website. So that is all for today. And subscribe, like, share, and tell your friends. This is the Witch's Haven. For you guys, keep witching, and remember, there is nothing that you cannot do that you don't put your mind into it. Just light a candle for a better effect.